So this is something that has caught up a lot of attention. So one of the first questions that I had is, I'm kind of looking for answers. I asked this question everybody that I meet: why is CMC become so hot in the last 4-5 years? So that's one question that I've tried to ask everybody that I meet whenever I talk to someone in this space. I'm just looking for some answers from this group as well. So why do you think that people are really interested in CMC? I'm sure it was not the case 5 years back, or not the same vein.
The complexity of all the molecules we're making these days have increased, and then also regulatory expectations of those have increased. So like, you just tested sterility, it was good back in the day. Now you got to test 15 different things.
Okay.
And they have much better data. What is you actually understand your molecule. They've really, there was a complete response letters from the FDA. Like they're showing them a bunch of stuff from CMC. You just made it bigger than that.
Okay. Yeah, I also have an answer. I'm going to share it after you guys share. I heard it from one of the customers that I found to be interesting. Anybody else?
I think there's a lot of really cool new technologies, both in terms of instrumentation and software, that are really compelling to use, but don't validate well, or don't lend themselves to later stage work.
Okay. Interesting. Yes, Lira.
Workflow and orchestration have gotten a lot better.
Okay.
And so a lot of the challenges that we just could not even get to before have gotten a little bit easier.
Okay. Interesting. So I met this customer, I asked this question, and they said post-COVID, there's been a big push for this. And this is like one person, I don't want to quote his name, but he said post-COVID, the clinical approvals have become faster. So CMC all along was hiding behind clinical trials because that used to take ages, and they were pretty much able to do things over a long period of time. But post-COVID, they saw that the clinical approvals got faster, and now they had to do something about CMC because they can no longer afford to wait for clinical trials to get approved. And that's the reason a lot of focus has come to CMC, was his take on it. And I felt that to be really intriguing, right? So I just wanted to share that.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay, so with that in mind, again, we have been working in this space for the last, we've been working forever, but in the last 4 years, there's been more focus on this area. And this list is something that's a more IT for CMC view, right? So that's the reason I asked, is there someone from the business at the start, just to see if there is something that they don't agree on this. When you see this from the business perspective, maybe the challenges are slightly different. But this is more what we have seen. Again, I would like to understand, what do you think? Do you guys agree to some of these challenges? Do you see something that's bigger than this that we are blindsided by and all that? We've been kind of looking at this. We've been doing some work around all these different challenges. I also wanted to share what we've been doing about this. But before getting into that, wanted to understand if you guys agree. Do you see something that is not listed here that's really big?
To me, I think there is like the pure business side, right? The actual process development, like
Yeah.
So like you have enough time to develop a process that is efficient enough to actually be commercially viable. And like actually testable. Like you look at CAR T, gene therapy, you look at ADCs, there's a lot there in terms of like, does this product actually work at scale?
Yeah.
From a science perspective.
Yeah, true.
Before you talk about data governance.
Yeah, makes sense.
I think as you're moving from the R&D space into closer and closer, clinical and GMP space, the data lineage and the knowing where the source of truth is, I think it's always important everywhere, but I think it feels like it's more important because there's regulatory things that are riding on making sure you can trust your data.
Yeah. Very true. Yeah. So I think probably need to look at that from that perspective and also consider that into our list of things that we work on. Thank you so much for the inputs. So from our standpoint, we've been looking at these 5 elements, and we've done quite a bit of work, at least in the 4 of this. Again, this one, to start with, is just the sheer complexity of data that we are getting in terms of the sheer plethora of instruments that we have to deal with, the applications. And most of these instruments generate data in their own format. And how do you get the data out, convert that to some sort of a standardized format has been a headache for a lot of time. So that is an area that we've done quite a bit of work on. So we've been able to build a lot of instrument parsers that kind of bring in reusability, help our customers connect and get the data out faster. And again, we've been working with a lot of ELNs and LIMS over the last 18 years and counting now. So we've done a lot of data migration work, moving from one ELN to another ELN, LIMS to another LIMS. And this has also given us a vantage point to look at connecting to applications and getting the data out. So that's another area where we've been able to focus and help our customers that much more. And of course, this is again a slightly different take on managed services per se. All along, managed services has been centered around applications. We think that is probably not the way to look at things, especially in this world. We probably are looking at following the data rather than looking at the applications. So that's something that we are trying to do at some of our customers, where the instrument is probably the starting point at which the data gets generated, and then it gets captured in an application, typically the ELN or the LIMS. And then you have a lot of integrations that happen, transformations that happen, and then finally you look at the data, get insights and all that. So one of the things that we have been trying to advocate, look at things differently is, instead of looking at apps, can we look at the data? So look at the apps that generate the data, the apps that consume the data, the apps that transform the data, the apps that act as the master data thing. And can we look at this from that spectrum and help our customers? That way we can reduce a lot of data governance that happens post facto. So that's the thought process here. We've been working on this and started including this in whatever we do with some of our customers. Yeah. Again, it's slightly getting to the next level where, as Diana pointed out, we're looking at creating some sort of a fundamental foundational data model. We've created something called as a FAIR Data Factory. The idea is, how do we call the same thing with a particular name across different systems? So that's probably the starting point of the whole thing. We've been building some models for specific areas, especially on the formulation development, in vitro assays, PK studies, cell therapy specifically. So these are all areas that we've already built, and there are areas that we are working as we speak. Yeah. So data governance, again, the great point that you guys brought about. We are looking at data governance more like a data landscape as a service to begin with. And in that world, we see this being more a proactive job rather than looking at data governance as a reactive thing later on. Yeah. And the regulatory work. So here, multiple data readiness gaps exist. So we are looking at more creating all these reports automatically using AI. So this is another investment that we have made, where we've been decently successful in terms of creating all the different reports. And the more important thing is to be able to create that lineage that you spoke about. Like, how do I trace everything back in my report to the source system? Right, so, yeah. And this one is more around the change management. So here, not just looking at this program, we are also looking at enabling people in terms of both data and digital literacy and AI fluency. So we've been able to craft a program that is very specific to scientists, again, at different levels. And how do I take the same knowledge, go and talk the language that they're so used to, instead of just giving them something generic in a Coursera. So that's been this whole thing. So I'd like to take a pause here. Anything that you think, of course, the couple of things that you guys mentioned is the whole science part of it and the data lineage part of it. Some of the data lineage is addressed there, but I think we probably need to focus on that a little bit more. Any other areas that you think as an industry can be useful if we can do some work on that?
One thing we're also working on with the vendors there is tech transfer across a lot more of the organizations, CDMOs, CROs, your analytical labs. How do you manage those different pockets of execution of the CMC package?
Interesting. Okay. You mean to to say focus on those specific industries and nuances for that. Like say for a CDMO, it's slightly different from.
But again, I think very few organizations, when you think about say an IND package at the end, like the
Okay.
like you're writing the CMC section for your IND, right?
Yeah.
Chances are maybe you're making it in-house,
Uh-huh.
you're using PPD for your testing, or you're using,
Okay.
chances are you're using Reliant for your testing. How are you managing that full life cycle across your entire portfolio?
Okay.
Nobody's really doing every part of
Yeah.
the CMC internally.
Yeah, true. Okay.
It's a big
Okay, going on to the QC part. Again, probably a small question. I like the first answer. Users. So there's this famous thing in our office where they say the best project is the one where we don't have a customer and we will get to do whatever we want to. Right? So and of course, the toughest project is to build something internally for people within our company, right? So that's politics. Yeah, so thank you so much for sharing the views. I'm sure I can't really solve political issues, so I'm going to stay away from that. But we've also come across some of them. I saw harmonization, I saw standardization, training, misalignment and all that. So, I mean, we have just taken probably things that we could control. So it starts with the master data. So this is one thing that I've seen every customer underestimate. The amount of time that it takes to create and set up the master data has always been underwhelming. So this is one area that I've seen constantly being underestimated. Again, harmonization is again something that's common. There's been no customer that's I've not seen this problem at. Validation, verification, so that's another thing that's typically taken time. And then the SOP updates. So you do a rollout, multi-site rollout, you have a golden SOP, and then you go to a site, everybody says I have a special process and I have my own SOP, and then it takes a long time. And the fifth one is, of course, the training and support. So when we do large programs where I have 30 sites, 40 sites across the globe, so people go and train all the users in January, and the go live happens in somewhere in May, June, and by the time everybody has forgotten what to do, right? So, and you get a lot of questions around how do I do this? I'm not able to open the system. I forgot my password. Starting from that to how do I log a sample? So, so these are all the bigger ones. Of course, I agree with all the comments around the politics and the users, right? So, but as I told at the start, I'm a person who thinks if we don't have users like that, I'll not have jobs. So I always like the fact that we have users like that. So yeah. So again, so here we've had a chance to work on some of this. And there's a story around this. I mean, so Clark mentioned about Pfizer. So here again, the story goes back to Pfizer 2016-17, where we were invited to be part of the lab to key in data in an Excel sheet for this master data. And that's where we got the idea to automate. So they were kind enough to allow us to create this tool in parallel, so that as long as their project was not impacted. So we built that in parallel from there, and then it was an Excel macro with an OCR back in the day, and now it's a AI-based tool that we've been able to build and use across multiple customers. It's kind of supporting close to 80 sites as we speak today. So this is something that we have been able to bring in AI, automation, and some manual intervention to be able to extract data. So this is probably closer to an example that you were asking for, Clark, in terms of data capture. So where we are extracting data from the documents and being able to automatically set it up in LIMS systems. So we've been able to help customers go faster on their LIMS implementations. So we've had at least 40% savings in effort, and the higher number has been close to 85% in some of the cases. So. And there was an interesting thing where, so master data is faster now, what about the others, right? So you're helping me set up master data faster, but my rollout is still taking longer, and that's what led us to look at the other things and building things for that. So the method harmonization, so this is an interesting thing where we've been able to come up with a process to do this harmonization faster. So there are 20 sites, the same method is being used in 10 sites, but there is again different SOPs, different methodologies. How do I harmonize? And there is still going to be some element which is going to be unique to the site. How do I allow that to happen, but at least make sure that 90-95% is the same? So that's the endeavor. So again, this is a combination of AI, some automation, where we help the customer do this at least, like say they were taking 3 months to do one method harmonized, and we help them do it in 2 weeks using this. Yeah. So the whole CSV process, so we built something where you can give a URS, and then it will take the URS, take each requirement, it will try to classify the risk for that particular requirement. The only other input that it requires is the contextual information for the application. It can be in user manual, or people do a lot of demos with screen shared and stuff like that. Once you give that as an input, it will be able to take the video, slice and dice the information, create the context automatically for the application. So we've been able to create test scenarios, test steps, create test data, and execute the test steps for applications. And this is, again, having human in the loop, a multi-agent architecture where we create a profile saying, okay, you are a person who's writing the script, and the other person who's a reviewer is a big FDA, a terror auditor that comes in and then looks at things critically. So when we actually create this kind of an architecture where the script is generated, it is passed on to this agent, which reviews it, provides feedback. And once we run this iteratively 3 times, the hallucinations go down a lot, right? So, and we are able to also allow people to correct or update at a test scenario level or a test step level. And we're able to bring human in the loop there and ensure that the outcome is 100%, although your LLM cannot guarantee that on its own. Right? So this is something, again, within what we do internally, we have a thriving ecosystem for compliance solutions. We have close to 220 people. So almost 90 people use this tool today as part of their job to be able to do things faster, better for our customers. And we're also directly working with customers and doing this in the LIMS rollouts. Yeah. So same, the SOP scenarios where I have an SOP and a set of documents. Can I automatically update the site SOPs based on that is what we're trying to accomplish here. And then finally, again, this global rollouts always have people knowing only that particular language, especially in the QC space. Everybody is comfortable in a particular language. English is not the language. So we help them in training. So thanks to LLMs, we're able to create very specific training modules that can deliver work in the language of the choice. And then we have kind of created a boundary of sorts where we take the master SOP, the site SOP, the user manual, and then it answers questions. People can talk to the agent and get the answers. And if it is outside the remit, it says, I don't know. Right? So that's what we've been able to create. So that way you are able to reduce the amount of requests that come in when systems go live. And we can also give personalized training for people. So you don't really have to call everybody at the site on a particular day, run a session, and then people forget. Right? So it's something that can just be active on their system, and they can ask questions, they can drop a snapshot. This is something that understands the context and provides specific, saying, okay, how do I log a sample? It'll tell you detailed steps, it'll show you images, it'll walk you through that. So that's something that we've been able to try. So any questions, any thoughts? So, yeah, please.
On that last one, we've done some of this. How do you think about that with like from a regulatory perspective? Of like, okay, your operator is trained, or your QC analyst is trained on LIMS.
Correct.
Show your SFLMS, you're trained on that LIMS, right? It's like, well, I ask AI, it's like, well, what procedure did you follow? What step did you follow? And how do you manage that?
Oh, yeah.
It could be, it's not consistent, right? It's not
Yeah.
deterministic.
Great question. So one of the first things that we did there was like create a training module where they have to go through this and an assessment, and that gets recorded, right? So this is for the auditors. And then something that I use on a daily basis. So
This is a business tool.
yeah. So that's the,
It's
yeah.
like, you do your real training,
Correct.
the business tool.
Correct. So it's like, I mean, this tool does both. So it's like it also makes you go through the training and take an assessment. That is your record for the audit purposes. And it also helps you do the training. And then this is something that can come in handy when you're actually doing the job.
Yeah.
So this is typically what happens when the support teams get a lot of requests on the day of go live, and then it happens in different languages, and then you want someone only for 2 days in a month, and it's very difficult to get. So I want, German speaking person only for 2 days when the go live happens. Right? That's pretty much what I had. Any other questions, anything that you would like to know, I'll be happy to answer.